Hi there, and welcome to Green Shoe Conversations, episode 35. I'm Stephany Cochran, the executive director for the Green Shoe Foundation, and I'm so excited you've joined us today. With me, drum roll, I have got Miss Rebecca Holt, one of our therapists. Hey, Rebecca, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you, Stephany?
You know what? I'm doing good. So today is a work from home day, clearly, as your shirt states. And we'll get to that in just a second. So we're going to give a little teaser on the shirt. But yeah, I'm so glad you're joining me. We kind of have been talking the last several weeks and reflecting back on last year. And as we're kind of going into 2021. And so you and I get to chat a little bit about that. But you wanted to kind of do a special wardrobe for today's podcast.
Yeah. So I knew this was coming up. We were going to reflect on the past year. And one of the huge parts, like that I've had so much gratitude, is the time I've spent at home with my dog, which sounds so simple, but in COVID, when you're home so much, it's like such a joy to have our animals. And so I had found this shirt on Etsy.
I love it.
I was like, this is appropriate for my work from home wardrobe.
I know, it's so funny. And we've seen your animals through all of our Zoom stuff. I don't know. I think Tanya, we know Tanya starred in a couple of our podcasts. Your awesome cat has starred in many of our work meetings.
Oh, yeah.
Which has been really fun. But yeah, you're right. Our animals are so important. And I know for me, it's kind of helped me get through some of this quarantining.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Times with that. But yeah, you're right. So today we're still kind of looking back on 2020, and everybody says, and all the memes, wow, what a year. But we've spent a lot of time talking about the year and reflecting on it and just all the things that came up for us. And at the beginning of the year, before we even knew what everything was going to hold, I know I challenged you guys as a team to all come up with your word of the year. And so it's been kind of fun to look back and think about it. And then not knowing what the year held for us, how that kind of helped us throughout the year. So what was your word of the year?
My word was grace.
Grace.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you pick grace?
So I think that a lot of what we do is offering compassion to ourselves and others. And so just having that self-grace, but then also extending that grace to others is something I really wanted to work on. And for me, because compassion is a huge part of what I do, a huge part of who I am, but I feel like grace is like such a huge action to pause and say, wait a second, I need to extend some grace to myself, or I need to extend some grace to that person. Mm-hmm. And so that was a huge part of what I wanted to start out the year with.
How did it go?
So it turned out to be a word that I needed more than I knew. Mm-hmm. But we've had to, I've heard you say this a few times and I love this, but we've had to put our stretchy pants on, and be a little flexible with the things going on this year. And so as I think back to the grace I had to extend to myself, sometimes being home, feeling that need to constantly be going, but then have the grace to say, it's okay to feel scared right now. It's okay to just sit with those feelings right now and not just always be doing something. And then, over the course of the year, we've had to have a lot of grace because, there's times where people have to cancel on you. There's times where people say, my safety is important. And, that's not something I struggled offering grace. I've actually loved to be able to say, no, that's okay. You take care of you. That's been a big part of it. And then, just the extending grace to the first responders, extending grace to people who are struggling or, this is a difficult time. And so that word grew to be something much bigger than I thought it would be.
Absolutely. And when I hear you talk about that, what comes up for me is how easy it is for me to extend grace to others. That's almost something that's second nature, but I don't do that to myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I've said this in other podcasts, but it's, like I'll be moved to tears seeing people extend grace and compassion to others, but I don't offer that to myself. I'm so hard. I'm my biggest critic.
Right.
And so that's been a huge lesson in extending that grace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's so important that we give it to ourselves. And I notice now too, when you talk about that, you always say yourself first, which I think is most important, because if we can't extend grace to ourselves, um, then why are we having the compassion?
Yeah.
And making sure that we give that forgiveness. That's why I love my shirt, my perfectly imperfect shirt. I know that's something we say all the time, and that's one of Pia's big affirmations. And we love it so much we put it on our T-shirt. But it's more than that for me. I think that's been this whole year has been, it's okay to not be perfect. In fact, it's really okay. And just to sit and be in that, and the acceptance, and the fact that I don't have to have sometimes the fear that comes with mistakes, or the self-criticism that comes with making those mistakes, especially when it's out of my control.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like, on that personal level, how important that is to give that to yourself on our social level, but then on a much bigger level, because this year hasn't just been COVID. There's been things that are much bigger than us, and conflict and all the things we've seen. And even whenever I really tried, someone maybe has a point of view that differs from mine, I don't agree with, but trying to extend some grace instead of getting angry or threatened, getting curious and graceful about it. That's been helpful for me too in that situation. And it's not for that other person. I mean, of course, I want to extend that to them, but for me to experience those things, that's been a huge part of that. Trying to see where people are coming from.
Exactly. And I don't remember what number, I'm not good with our episodes, but we talked about that on a previous podcast when we got into talking about conflict. And you're right, we had so much, with the racial tensions and political and different things have come up. And you talked a lot about how to have some of those hard conversations and just be curious, and how important it is for us to have those conversations. And we may never agree with the individual we're having the conversation with, but it's still important to have it. Sure. And to listen. And again, it's not about them, but it's about giving ourselves that opportunity.
Yeah.
To hear it. And then if we need to set a boundary, you went through all of that with those. So this year, again, I think more so really did provide a lot of what I'm calling opportunities for life lessons. What other lessons do you think you got out of this year?
It's been interesting this year. Just our social lives have totally changed. And one thing I don't know if it's come in contact with or experience, but really deepening those meaningful relationships, intentional relationships in my life. And so a lot of times, we call it our bubble, our quarantine bubble. But I've spent so much time with my brother and my sister-in-law and my nephews. And there's a lot of times in life we just go through the motions, or we have these casual relationships, or relationships that we're, maybe we're out there, we want to get something out of it. It's a business relationship or something like that. And not to cut out relationships, but examining, how important those relationships are in our life, and the supports that we have. I can't tell you how thankful I am for that. The other thing I've noticed, my husband and I feel like our relationship has really grown, because when you have to live in close quarters with the people in your house, I mean, you got to figure out how to work together. And so, there's been a lot of teamwork in my house, a lot of the talking, listening boundary at times. But, I feel like I've really been able to deepen some meaningful relationships in my life.
Right. And I know that that was one of the things I've talked about, is just the gifts that the quarantine gave me, time with, my family, and having both my kids at home. And I mean, not that that's what my oldest college kid, had planned for his year, but we were able to have conversations we've never been able to have, and deepen those relationships, and help kind of in that next life step that, he's taking. And you're right. Learning not to get frustrated that there's twice as much trash now in the house or twice as much laundry, and dishes and everything else. Yeah, I think was kind of a good thing for us to kind of work together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, well, and I think for us as a work family, we've been able to deepen our relationships too, being there for each other, understanding,
Yeah.
if someone's going through something, stepping in and saying, hey, I'll help, I think that's been an awesome part of this year as well, as how we've grown our Green Tree family. The other thing that comes to mind too is I feel like working from home, I've been able to fall in love with my home
Mm-hmm.
and love coming home. And so, it's kind of like you get in this, you just pass through, do laundry, do dishes, go back to work.
Right.
And so it's been something that on my downtime or on the weekends when I'm not doing something is making my home my place, a sacred place for me to come and rest. That's been a really rewarding part of my year.
Mm-hmm. I would think one of my life lessons that I got out of this year came from you. And I
Oh.
wanted to kind of share that. Ever since getting to know you and working with you, one thing that you talk about is your yoga practice. And I know it's a personal thing for you. And I have spent more time this year in more mindful activities, both in meditations and breathing. And some of that has then been in learning and practicing yoga. And I can't tell you, Rebecca, the gift that has given me has been awesome. Not just the physical health aspect, which, to be, purely honest, yoga is not for the faint of heart, and it's not about being flexible, because I'm not. But I love how it's helped strengthen physically, but more so being able to give me that calm and relaxation and all of that. So yeah, I want to tell you thank you for that. You've been so supportive and helping. And we did a podcast, on yoga, with the Spirit House. And that's something you brought to us, and to me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, that's been a huge part. One of the things I do love about yoga, especially since we've been home, is something you can do anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It looks different for everyone, but it's something you can do anywhere. But I know that I was thinking about during the ice storm last October. I mean, because there's that. Yeah. I mean, just throwing in 2020, I didn't have power for a week. Yeah. But, even in that moment where physically I was cold when I was home, I'm worried about tree limbs, all of that. I felt like my body just went into this place of like this. And I remember one day I went up to the office and I just rolled out the yoga mat and just did some stretching, did some poses, and I felt open. It's like my body felt safe. And that's been a huge part because, there's so many times that we're just stuck inside, and a way to get in your body and feel safe. And, I can't control what's going on out here, but I can feel calm and safe in my body. That's been something that has been huge. So I'm glad that you've been able to practice that. And I'm glad I've been able to share that with you. That's awesome.
I have. And I know it's something that we share, we've talked about. And I love the fact that I've been able to get in tune more with my body, both in relaxing and I've been able to physically push myself. I want to be very clear. There's all different types, like we've talked about, and I'm not talking about gimmick yoga. I don't do hot yoga or jazz yoga or whatever. Now I would do goat yoga. I am telling you that, but I love goats. But
yes.
But I love that you have those options with it to explore different parts, with your body.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So in closing out the year, and we haven't talked about our new words for next year. And I'm going to be honest, I'm a little scared to pick one for this year, trying to, it's like, do I want to pick a theme? So I kind of set myself up, a little different, but any last thoughts or closing things as we kind of keep moving forward?
No, I think that, in times of struggle, when things are really hard, we know the gift of pain is healing, growth, and awareness. Mm-hmm. And I think on so many different levels for so many different people, we've been able to experience, not that we wanted it, but we've been able to experience a time of growth and awareness. And that may even be uncomfortable for some people. It may still be uncomfortable. And so I think one of the things, I haven't quite picked a word yet,
Mhm.
but I know it will be something about growth, that my personal growth is important, being intentional in
Right.
that growth.
Well, and I think as a team, something that we want to kind of be the message going into this next year that came out of our lessons of 2020 is authenticity.
Mhm.
And you've written an awesome blog that's going to be coming out soon. But that's going to be kind of our message too, is finding that authentic self. And I think we all found different parts of ourselves this year that we maybe didn't know were there, or we did know. And like you said, through some of the hard parts, we have had growth, and we have found these things that we really want to explore on how to kind of form that authenticity that we want so much as
Mhm.
we go through. So, but hey, thanks for joining us. I didn't ask if Tanya was going to make a guest appearance.
She is busy looking out the front door.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she's watching everything and keeping everything going. But we really appreciate everybody joining us this week, and we look forward to more conversations. And hey, if you have something you want us to talk about going into this year, let us know. Check us out at greenshoe.org. You can reach us there or through our email at info@greenshoe.org. But we will see everybody next week, and we look forward to those conversations.